Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of All Knicked Up. It is Wednesday, August 9th. I want to apologize for the delayed start. I know we're usually starting at 8:30. It's my fault. I had something that I was doing ran a little bit over. So this is the old time that we used to start when Craig was on the show because he was always late and lazy. No, I'm kidding. That's not true. But he was always kind of, you know, can we start later? But he had kids, so it made sense. But so sorry about the late start time, but we're here. Again, last week we were off. Well, I had something again last week that came up, so I couldn't do the show. So we decided to punt it to this week. But we are back. It's just two of us this week, so let me bring Ty in. Ty, how are you,
Yo,
man?
yo,
Going good?
doing good. All nicked up, crew. What's good?
Yes, yes. So this was originally we were like, there's not much news to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we always have stuff that pops up, or maybe that day we get a little bit of news that is just like important to the team. And we literally happened today. We got news.
Yeah.
So we'll start right there. We will start with that news. And of course, I'm talking about the Josh Hart extension.
Mm-hmm.
So Josh Hart signed a 4-year extension worth $81 million, all total, including his upcoming season, which is his fifth opt-in season for this contract. Would be around 93 million total. So normally I lead with the my commentary, but I'm gonna let you go first this time, and I will piggyback off your comments. So, what do you think about Hart, the player, which we kind of know already, but and then the contract that he signed?
Yeah, Hart's one of those guys. I mean, when you start down this line of talking about Hart, it makes it sound like he's invaluable, like he doesn't have value to the team. We recognize that his impact has been extraordinary on the team. Part of the issue is that the stats will never show how impactful he is. Like I think when you look at this kind of contract, you're talking 4 years, $81 million. You expect that this guy's playing, lights out as a superstar. You're figuring you're going to have these impactful numbers, and you're going to say, "Wow, he's an all-star. Dude's got to be at least an all-star. He at least has to be a six-man of the year candidate." And no, he's not. He's not in none of those things. He's actually pretty much a glue guy. These numbers right now are starting to, skyrocket, and it's going to probably turn the stomach of a lot of casual fans that have been viewing the NBA for the last 10 years, trying to say who earns and who deserves what as far as money is wise. This is a kick in the stomach kind of number when you look at it. You're talking about a guy making $20+ million a year, or it might be what is it 20? I think it's like almost $20 million a year.
Yeah,
Um, you know, you're like, well, what is he doing for us lately? This goes back to the whole Janet Jackson song. What have you done for me lately? You're going to really ask that question when you see him on the floor. Granted, this is once again another CAA nepotism, contract, or a family tree, or whatever you want to call it. This is really him being really great friends with Brunson. This is what you're going to see is guys are going to get contracts based on connections nowadays, it seems, especially with the looming new CBA that's coming. It's expect to have a lot of restrictions on it, and we're going to start seeing players get the Jalen Brown numbers, which is another one that is quite nauseating when you hear those numbers as far as per year. Um, do I like Josh Hart? Absolutely, absolutely. I was a little skeptical when he made his IG video. I always said he had them light skin vibes. I wasn't like kind of feel that. Him coming in, I was like, dude, we've seen this before. We've seen these movies before where guys come in and say they're going to change New York, or be able to, actually take a bite out the apple, and they fail miserably. But however, he did live up to his hype for what he brought to the table as a tenacious player on the court. I always loved his rebounding. I always thought that was something unique about him in this league, of where you don't have big guys trying to get 10 rebounds. This guy actually is a guard, an undersized guard, pretty much still gets those boards, those tough boards. And he just plays. He plays with, an infectious energy. It's not like he's like a lazy guy on the court. So he's got great value to this team. That number's just, I mean, it's like that number is going to cost someone else their spot. That's the kind of number that he has right now as far as this contract. Um, when you ask if people are worth this, I mean, we're judging him literally on the total of what, half a season. This
Yeah.
is what these numbers he got from half a season. And being cool with the best player on the team, and having these connections, and for apparently doing the Knicks a favor with the DiVincenzo acquisition. Basically he opted in to have the monies available for DiVincenzo to be able to be signed, and from there they rewarded him with this extension in August. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of strange in the sense that, are we building a basketball team, or are we building a clubhouse? I mean, literally, it's like a boys' club right now. It's like these guys know each other there at the weddings of Jalen Brunson, and I understand if it's a brotherhood and et cetera. The Knicks are just very starved for having a second player that's the ilk of Brunson. That should always be, to me, the concentration when you talk about building this team, of having find the right fit that's the second best player, or even a better player than him, should be the priority. When I see, 80 million, going to Hart, I forgot what DiVincenzo's contract is. You're paying role players now monies that you should be trying to actually ascertain a star with. I'm not saying you're going to get an Embiid, or whoever, maybe not even a Donovan Mitchell. Maybe you got him in free agency in 2 more years, maybe. But I just think the focus has to be on building a team, not building relationships. And that's what we've seen from the Knicks from the start, and I guess we kind of knew it when they brought in Leon Rose and William Wesley, that this was going to be about connectivity, connecting the dots, or knowing someone who knows someone and getting them in on a good deal. I think they've done a pretty solid job with the front office as far as getting in the right kind of talent for that. I think when you talk about the Knicks basketball team in its totality, we're starting to see, a trend that you might want to have some concern about, because will this be about basketball? Because don't mistake in Hart's effort and ability to play on the court as this still building a championship caliber team, because ultimately the goal should be to win a ring, and not to have favor with certain agents or certain, I don't know, communities within communities, as far as how the Knicks is being built. Because I don't know if there's a better player than Hart available. So let's just say off the cuff, Hart was a great acquisition, which he was, because his impact was tremendous. So, but you're bringing in a guy like DiVincenzo, who I'm a fan of. It's not like don't like Dante, but is that not what Hart does? Is pretty much what Dante is brought in to do, except he's a better 3-point shooter. So we're starting to see a lot of redundancy. And if there's one thing that's been an issue with this team, is the redundant talent. RJ and Julius are redundant in a lot of ways. You have a guy like Brunson, who's the best player, clearly. He's not the purest point guard. So we go to the bench, and his backup is Emmanuel Quickly. I would guess that's who they're going to give the reins to. He's also a guard that does not distribute. So we don't have a lot of versatility. We have more replicated talent on this team. And what is Hart? What is Dante going to do that Hart's not going to do? And they're undersized. That's my biggest concern, outside of just the monies that's involved, which is, like I said, a lot of money.
Yeah, that was the surprise to me. The 81 million for 4 years. He basically got, for a player of his stature, he got the max. They gave him the full amount that they could give him. Mm-hmm. And to me, whenever I hear that term max, that should be reserved for all-star caliber and above. Like, that's how I look at it. I don't see him as that kind of player. Can he make an all-star team? Maybe. But do I see it happening? No. He's not a good enough offensive player. He's got a lot of tools in his bag. He could do a lot of different things well, but he does nothing great either. Mm-hmm. So I look at it from that perspective. And again, as a player, yes, I love him. His last name literally fits the type player he is. He's all heart. He gives everything he has when every minute he's on the court. Mm-hmm. He's a good leader. All of that intangible stuff you want in a player, yes, he is that. But to me, that's like a 15, 16 million tops a year type player. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. That's my how I would have rewarded him. And I understand the market dictates what guys get, right? So it could just be that both of us, being from an older school, think something this kind of contract that he's getting is a little bit elevated for someone of his ability. But man, I can't wrap my head around them giving him this money and then like freaking out. I don't know if they freaked out about it, but one of the excuses being, well, we had to move Obi because we couldn't pay him. And now we're going to see that with Quickly too, right? Quickly's up for an extension. And I said this to you today, right after we got the news. I'm like, there's no way they're extending him this year now. He's going to have to play out the season, and they're going to have to go through the same exercise next year with him.
Yep.
What do we do? And his minutes are going to go down. So he's not going to have as much playing time because of Dante being here. I don't know how they're going to play all these guards at one time. To me, and again, I mean, you brought this up immediately when it happened. Your first message was somebody's getting traded. That's what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's getting traded. And it makes perfect sense. Like that, logically, you would think someone has to be on the move. And to me, and my response was, it's got to be Quickly because he's the most affordable guy to trade right now for another team.
Mm-hmm.
So they could add him for a little bit, and they could be the one that says, yeah, we're going to extend him. We're going to pay him and give him the money he wants down the road, because right now the Knicks can't do that. And you don't want this to become a situation next year where Quickly is they have to make a decision, and he could just be like, screw it, I don't want to be here anymore. You guys don't want me anyway. Then that hurts his trade value. There's a lot of things that could go on between now and then with him because of this signing. And yes, I knew this signing was coming, but it's the number. Again, so you're paying him $20 million a year for a guy who doesn't score that much. What's Quickly going to say? He's going to say, I want more than that. He is. He's going to say, I want more money than that.
I agree. I mean,
right?
Why would he not? When you think about what Hart brings to the table, it's not that as if, and this is coming from someone everybody knows I'm not the biggest Quick fan, but
right.
I'm still saying, looking at Quick's age, what Quick can bring to the table, outside of the rebounding aspect of what Hart brings. It's not like Quickly doesn't bring pretty much the same kind of bag. He can score better. He does play defense. He D's up. He plays with great energy. It's not like he does not. Passing, maybe I'll give it to Hart a little bit more than him, of making the more sounder basketball play. Yeah, I'd give that to Hart if you're going to put a check in his box, different than Emmanuel. But I don't. Emmanuel's younger. I mean, what are we doing here? Are we trading in once again vets for young players, or are we back to doing the old Knick thing of grooming players? When you think about it, the whole idea was to get these young players in and develop them into, maybe possibly all-star talents, and then being able to ship them out for a bigger talent should be the MO of this front office. But what we're seeing is none of those things. We're seeing them basically not pull a full Isaiah Thomas, but kind of, still pulling, it might be the other Isaiah spelled differently, Thomas. Maybe they're going that route. Oh, we didn't mean that Isaiah. We meant the other Isaiah. He spelled different. But you're still swapping out picks or either talent to move off to get veterans in here. And like both the guys that we're talking about, I love them. I've wanted Dante to be drafted here. It's not like these guys, I'm like, oh, they're crap, because that's not the point. It's like, whose ceiling is higher? If you believe, if the hype behind Emmanuel Quickly is that this guy is still developing and he could still be something awesome down the road, and we've not seen the best of him, whereas we've seen what Hart and DiVincenzo is, we know what they are. There's probably not another level they're going to go to. They're just stable vets and stable pros, which are great, but those are add-ons when you're a chip team. Not when you're a developing team. The Knicks are not at that. We still have to be in the talent acquisition phase of this organization, because we don't know. We don't have definitive talents. We just finally may have gotten a 1A talent, maybe, in Brunson. I mean, we still have to see him another year after this to see if it was. I don't think it's a fluke, but I'm just saying, to be true to the task, we've got to wait and see whether or not he has the ability to maybe sustain this for 2 or 3 seasons. But you're looking at jumping the gun. I mean, we traded away Obi for 2 now laters and maybe 2 Diet Cokes, and I mean, that's just, I mean, people just whiff at that as he wasn't playing. I mean, I've heard some of the worst takes on this, and I'm like, well, the bottom line, I don't care if he's not playing behind Julius. Look what you picked. You picked him. You're trading off an asset. It's asset management, as they say. It's bad asset management. If we're coming back up on Emmanuel quickly, a guy you got really for a steal in a position where you drafted him, and you've developed him, and the Garden tends to love him. A lot of fan base loves him, and we're right in the Obi phase once again. What is the trade value going to be for a guy like Emmanuel quickly if you plan on trading him when you're clearly going to reduce his minutes? So his focus or feature on this team is going to be diminished because you just paid 2 guys a lot of money. You paid 2 guys a lot of money, and you got to play them. You can't sit Dante and Hart. So now it's like, who's going to take the hit here? It's got to be Emmanuel quickly, who's due for an extension. So now you're sitting there with this asset that's going to linger, and he can't get his full backup minutes. He's not going to be the full backup. This is something if you're saying that we know definitively Emmanuel owns the backup point guard position, and we're going to run him. But when you got Dante and you got Hart on the floor, those guys are facilitators. They push the ball. They're not sitting there they're not duds on the floor. They're very active. They play the role of they're not Scottie Pippen. I don't want to put them in Scotty's mention, but I'm just saying that Scotty's job was to be the off guy who pushed the ball and played defense. These guys are going to play the same kind of role. So you're saying you're going to take that ball basically out of Emmanuel Quickly's hands, and that's the only way he's great is with the ball in his hands. He's not great off the ball that I know of. I haven't seen it. Maybe he can grow into that, but are you going to put 3 undersized guards, combo guards, none of which they are great passers, in a second unit? Why would you even? The Knicks are screwing themselves. We're watching the same Gilligan's Island. Skipper built the boat.
Well,
you still got a hole in it.
Well, what did I say? I mean, obviously Joe's not here, guys, tonight. He has a concert he's going to. But what did I message to you guys? And I was a little colorful when I said it. But what did I message to you guys? I said they better not F up another asset. That's what I said.
Yep, you did.
They better not screw up another asset, because that's how I see this going. Unless they make a decision soon about what they're doing with Quickly. I mean, they're kind of trapped with him too, because DiVincenzo and Hart can kind of play forward. Like, you can move them to small forward, and they can get away with minutes there. Quickly's a guard, period. There's no wiggle room there for him. So yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do, but this signing, again, that's the impact I saw immediately. That was the first thing I said. I was like, well, what does this mean now for Quickly? This huge number. And it wasn't because he got the number, he got the contract. I knew he was gonna get extended. Everyone knew that they were gonna sign him. It's the number. So now, like I said, Quickly's like, I should get more than that. I'm younger. I have more years to prove myself. I was already a runner-up for 6-man this past year. Josh Hart's never been that.
That's it right there. That's it.
So he has a ton of, his agent has a ton of things to point to. Like, you just paid this guy that much. My guy deserves at least $5 million more a year. Right? And then you're looking at right? Like, that's how I look at it.
You can't argue it.
No.
I mean, Quickly's accolades and his resume right now is impressive for a guy who was late first rounder or early
late
second
first.
round?
Late first, yeah.
Playing in this market, I would say that I still put an extra value playing here and being able to perform. Being the 6-man of the year runner-up, I mean, he's due a bag. It's not like I'm not a fan of his, but I'm a fan of knowing that, I'm not going to play this blinder thing like I don't like the guy and I'm going to belittle what he's capable of or his skill set. Like we kind of dealt with earlier today. I'll touch on that a little bit. But, you got to look at what it is as far as the factor that he's an impactful player and he's proven his worth The Boston game is that Boston game. When he came out, I'm like, oh, I don't like him like that, but I might grow to like him because I'm like, that was impressive to see him go into the Garden like that and the second Garden. We don't call it the first Garden. Go into Boston, whatever, TD Garden,
Right.
and go in there like that and be able to like say, I don't care if the best player on my team is sitting right now. I'm that dude, and he's proven more. The playoffs, I think he got in his own head. It seemed like he took himself out of the game. Kentucky guys seem to do this for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's in the bluegrass or maybe it's another grass this one. I don't know. They just tend to do this. They just flake out. But his regular season saying that he's about a $22 to $25 million player, based on what we've seen from him, and he's getting better. It's not like he's gotten worse. He's not going to get worse. I wouldn't think his work ethic is there. So what are you doing with this guy? Like, I mean, this is a legit question going. They have to. They have to trade him. I don't think you can even, like, when you think about this, like, well, maybe there's not even a maybe. This guy needs to be traded before camp, before you lose his value. They might not want to hear this. His value is going to diminish unless there's a team out there that's so in love with him and don't care what he does on the Knicks. But his value is no higher than now. As far as if you're going to trade him, you need to ship him. You need to ship him, and there's no disrespect to him and his skill set. You got to ship him now before you can't ship him later, because the less playing time does not increase anybody's value. We've seen Cam Reddish come in here. Cam is whatever he is. Nobody's saying he's great. But his value got worse when he sat on the bench, which, I mean, he didn't have a great value to begin with. You sit him on the bench, that doesn't even make it even better. And you attach picks to him to go get Josh Hart. No offense, love Josh Hart, so it's all good. But you did the same thing with Kevin Knox. You let his value, which was not great to begin with, was terrible, and you had to attach a pick to him to get rid of him. So we're seeing this trend. You severed Obi, and just said, hey, we're sending you for the 2 now ladies in the Coke I told you. So they sent him off. He might have got a Susie Q for him. He might have had a Susie Q cake. I'm not quite sure. You got barely nothing for Obi. So we are back on Quick. What's going to happen with Quick? Everybody should be ready now. What's going to happen with Quick? Same scenario. He's going to get sent off for terrible return value if you don't trade him now. Like, for me, if I'm the Knicks, and not because I love this guy, but he's been mentioned so many times, you got to go get him. Because the reason why I'm saying this is the narrow market for Quick as far as people who need point guards. Toronto needs one. Toronto needs a point guard. You need to, if he's just already signed over with CAA, you better use that connection to go get OG Anunoby, at least to have something, because you do need a small forward technically that you can, if you want to move RJ to the 2 and move him to the 3, that would be the move I would make to say maybe this guy becomes a piece that you can utilize under this defensive coach that we supposedly have, this defensive coach, and you're getting a great value back. You're getting a player back. You're getting a real player. It's not like you're giving up Emmanuel quickly, for 2 already scratched lottery tickets. You're not going to get it. You can't win because they lost. So you're better off taking him in Ev's contract and maybe throw a couple picks, which is crazy to think about, but you probably would have to do that to get OG Anunoby, and then bring him here. I mean, where else are you going to send Emmanuel? Emmanuel you can't go another year and diminish his value. Because I think the Knicks are believing, we already know they taking the value, how they value players, and think that the league values a guy like that. We saw Obi Toppin, number 8 pick, got trash back. They got trash back for that kid.
That trade for me will, especially if he's good this year, trade is going to be one of the worst trades in team history. I can honestly tell you, I see that happening.
I agree.
We're going to look back on that trade and be like, I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star, but I think he can be. So we're going to look back one day and be like, that was such a terrible, terrible trade. We'll see what happens there, though. But we haven't even brought up this next guy I'm going to bring up. There's been a lot of stories on him this summer, his development, his work ethic, and I'm talking about Quentin Grimes, who of course was also impacted by the Josh Hart extension because Grimes is a guard and in that same grouping of guys. So, we have him here to talk about as well. But apparently, he's proving. He worked with JJ Redick, and JJ Redick was very complimentary and said, "I feel like he can have a breakout season." And Grimes was like, "Yeah, I was talking to him to try and learn how to come off the ball and catch and shoot and those kinds of things he do." So he's working on the things someone of his caliber should be working on. And we've seen glimpses of him being better at taking guys off the dribble. He has a pretty good quick first step. So this is a guy who I think, another reason why I talked about quickly being the one that's out of the mix, is this is another guy I think the Knicks are very high on. He's a little taller, a little bit stronger, I think. He's already a good defensive player, so, he has kind of an even footing there with Quick. And right now they don't need to pay him, right? He's got another couple of years before they have to make that decision. So he's cheap for them to keep. And I mean, I liked the pick when they took him. I thought it was a good choice when they took him. As we all know, he was a top 10 high school recruit. He was supposed to be a superstar. I went to Kansas, didn't work out there. Doesn't surprise me. Bill Self is notoriously tough on some guys. He might not have been mature enough yet to deal with Self's coaching. Goes back home to Houston and turns into an All-American, right? And and then he gets drafted in the first round of the NBA draft. So I think there's a lot there. I like what I'm hearing about him. I already like the kid. So, but he's another guy that's factoring in here. So I said the thing. I mean, as you guys can see there, I say, is he about to break out? I don't mean he's going to become an all-star, but could he have a season similar to what Quickly had last year? I guess that's the question I'm posing.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at Grimes is one of those players that you definitely want on your team. He's probably going to run through every wall that you ever ask him to do as a coach. The talent is definitely there. I mean, we see a little glimpse of. I mean, I paid him probably one of the biggest compliments. I said that he reminds me of Mitch Richmond. That's who he reminds me of when I watch his game. I'm not saying he's going to be Mitch for anybody, but I'm just saying if you go back and watch old footage of Mitch Richmond and you watch the collegiate level play of Quentin Grimes, very similar games. When he has the ball in his hand, he's able to be free. I think the thing that I was laughing as you were saying it because I joked about or when they were saying, he said, "Oh, I'm learning these pin down screens and all this other stuff from JJ Redick," and I'm like, well, that's nice, but where's he going to run these plays at in New York? Because unless he's getting transferred to Golden State, Tom Thibodeau doesn't run this many offensive plays.
It's going to be like, I'll answer that real quick and then you continue. It's going to be like when you're at the park and at the playground and everyone knows there's one guy who's a good shooter, so they all start setting screens for him. That's going to be what happens. That's going to be how it goes. Not any design play. We're like, oh, we got to get Q open. And that's what it's going to be.
Because the pin downs and this dude isn't doing it. This dude ain't doing none of it. He was like, oh, one of the things he said about laughing about Grimes, he was saying, because I know he's serious. He's like, oh, I realize, how JJ Redick plays. You got to be in tremendous shape. I'm trying to get, in shape. I'm like, dude, you're going to be running to the scorer's table because you're not running off of no screens. Tom Thibodeau doesn't run no. People dog Al Harrington. If anybody wants to check out the interview about Mike D'Antoni, does not do any defense. This guy is the same way with offense because he's not running jack. Not jack as far as to be able to open up Quentin Grimes' game. And herein lies why the issue with Grimes. People look at him like he's a 3-and-D player. And this dude has more in his bag than being a 3-and-D player. It's like if you go back and view the collegiate level stuff, guy got game. That's why when even in the summer league, you look at when I say Mitch, a lot of people go, oh God, yeah, because he's on the Knicks. We don't run an offense. Watch him when he has shooting with the ball and his capabilities, take guys off the dribble, to finish at the rim. We see glimpses of it, but we don't have a savant passer on the Knicks. We really don't. Our best passer is RJ Barrett, and RJ really don't get the ball. I mean, let's just put it where it is. He's probably the one guy who would say, "Hey, maybe Quentin Grimes might be open over there. Let me throw the ball over there." Brunson, brilliant as he is, cannot see the floor that way. We know Julius's shortcomings. Not even got to revisit those, but he
only sees one side.
Yeah, and he's got a cock eye on that one. He really ain't seeing his bird eye is zooming over. So when we look at Q, this dude he's the one guy that would help to raise this team's level by having an offense where he could get open or he might come off with screens because he can shoot. We can see the skill levels there as far as he has great form. He's got a toughness about him. He's got a good build about him. It's not like he's no punk. You can see that out on the floor. Jimmy Butler learned he was no punk. Right. Jimmy Butler learned that play was probably synonymous with what people call him Grimes or grimy. That steal on Butler was one of the grimiest plays I've seen in Knick history, meaning that he had blew out. I thought he had tore his leg. I didn't know what had happened. I was like, suddenly he still comes up, he grits out and gets a steal on one of the tougher players in the league. So we see that there's not a ceiling on him yet. We don't know the cap on him yet. He would be just I always said if he was a little bit taller, we would have a lot of answers on his team, to be honest, if he was a taller player. But I'm looking for him to hopefully ignore the non-playbook, and when he gets the ball, he does something with it. I don't want him ISOing. That's not what I want to see from him. As much as I want to see him be aggressive when he gets the ball, you put it either on the ground or you go for your shot, and don't worry about the fallout of whether or not you're taking too many shots because you're probably the best shooter on the team. Outside of maybe Dante might have a great, might be a better shooter, but I'll put Grimes and him on the floor any day and just say you spread the floor and let them dudes knock down some shots. So, or if they close out, both him and Dante both have the ability to get to the rack and finish. Yes. So that's what I'd like to see from Grimes is a couple pump fakes and you handle your business. Don't worry about deferring to some of the players on the Knicks that should not be shooting at all, because that's really what it is. I trust him taking more of those shots with his form and getting. I think he'd be great not being even a volume. I don't think he needs a volume of shots. I think he's probably going to get quality looks and shots and shoot a nice, decent percentage.
Yeah, the article that I read with Grimes, he's another guy who comes to the defense of Randall in the article. They ask him about Randall. He says, guys don't understand how hard he works and all this other stuff. And, I mean, on the surface, I like hearing that. Like, you should defend your teammates and you should, come bring together, try and build that camaraderie. If it elevates Julius, makes him feel better about himself, then yes, all the more reason to, because we know how volatile he can be. So it's always good to hear that stuff, and I like hearing that about when players are complimentary of their own teammates. But I mean, I was much more happy to read about what he's been doing, what he's been working on. And again, right now it's just words, right? We don't know. We have to see it. But him seeking out JJ Redick, asking to work with him, and understanding that he has an ability to be that kind of player. JJ took a few years to find his footing as well, and then he finally became a fantastic shooter and a scorer. Like, he was always a good shooter, but he learned how to score a little bit and augment his game a little bit. I always said, you say Richmond, I always said Grimes kind of reminds me of a little bit of a less athletic Michael Redd. That kind of a player.
That's good.
Yeah, he's the kind of the guy I thought he could become once he gets there. But it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. Again, I feel like because of his size, the Knicks are obviously going to be playing small a lot this year. I think that's a secret. We still don't have a backup power forward. I don't want to hear about Isaiah Roby and whoever else they're bringing in.
Another Isaiah felt differently.
Yeah, we still don't have. Honestly, I would rather see Sims get those minutes. If they're going to use the backup power forward, let Jericho Sims get those minutes. I'm good with that. Let him use his athleticism to rebound and block shots. Doesn't need to score. Just do that. I'd be fine with that as the backup four. Him as the backup four. That's the way I'd go with it. But
I think it's funny
you know,
that when Obi was here, it was so much talk about we can't go small. But now we're one of the smallest teams.
yeah,
We're one of the smallest teams. I mean, I look at just off the cuff. I don't recall one guy that I can tell you, oh, he has height outside of RJ, because even Randall, how he is, he's built. He's probably 6'10", 6'9", 6'10", but he doesn't look it. He looks like a musclehead. That's what he looks like.
yeah.
He's very stocky. He's not long-limbed, so we're not even getting that advantage of his height. His height is not even working to benefit us. Like the NBA is a bunch of tall. Like you look at a guy like Brandon Ingram, he's lanky. You see the height. You can see that his limbs may block a shot, or even if his feet don't get there, his arm might get there to deflect something. It's like now we're really relying on gritty small guys to really dig into players on the perimeter and making sure that they don't try to get to the rim, because that's what you're going to have to do. They're going to have to be a dirty, grimy perimeter team that just guards them out on the perimeter. But God forbid one of those guys gets a step or gets in the post, they'll lunch me.
Yeah, I mean, Robinson and Hartenstein can only do so much, right? Like
they can only do so much.
They're excellent defensive players, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Hart really showed he could be, like, he turned it on last year.
Yeah.
So they showed that on defense. But again, you're asking the center now to basically really be the last line of defense, and sometimes even more than that, because they're gonna have to be closer to whatever they're gonna basically have to cover two big guys now instead of just one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a scheme way they're doing it, or Thibodeau's scheming there. Defensively, he can scheme. We know we talked about offense already. Let's not go there. Game shows you where you need to go. So that's so that's his offensive philosophy. But defense, he can scheme. So we'll see how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Knicks are short unless they sign someone or trade for someone. Maybe quickly is moved for someone like that. I don't know who that would be, but maybe they do that and move him for backup power forward or power forward, which would be crazy because they had Obi. But look, that's neither here nor there. Let's keep moving. So right now, what's going on? The big news in basketball, at least for us, is the World Cup. I believe this is the first actual World Cup tournament. It's not World Championship. This is the World Cup. Like I believe it's a newer.
Oh wow, okay. That's new for me.
So. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not like the World Championships that they used to have, and obviously it's not the Olympics or like the Tournament of Americas and all that other crap that they had. This is, I believe, a brand new concept that they're trying.
Oh, nice.
So the Knicks are well represented with both Team USA. We have obviously Jalen, Brunson, and Josh Hart. Shocker. And then for Team Canada, RJ Barrett is playing for Team Canada. I do know that in his first game, he played pretty well for Team Canada. They lost to Germany, but I think he scored 12 and played limited minutes, shot a good percentage. So it's good for him. I didn't see the game. I did catch some of the exhibition between the United States and Puerto Rico. And I know you did too, Ty.
Yeah, I got the whole game, yeah.
It's hard to tell sometimes when they're playing teams like that because they're basically playing college-level players. So there were some guys who were pros on Puerto Rico at one time, some older players who, but it was kind of hard for me to tell how good they are. All I know is more from what I'm reading about what's going on in the practices, how much Steve Kerr loves Jalen Brunson, says he's the leader of the team. That's stuff that we obviously expect to hear about him now that we know. But I think that's the biggest thing that's going to happen from this World Cup is if the United States wins and he's the reason, his star is just going to forget it. Like his star is just going to explode. And in a couple of years, his contract.
Right.
He's
getting back. He's getting a serious.
Yeah, he's going to get a bag in a couple of years. So, the games, like I said, it's really hard for me to gauge right now. I need to wait till they get into the international pool where they're playing the European teams. Then I'll be able to tell better. It is an interesting roster setup.
Mhm.
I'll say that there's some interesting players, but I know you were kind of questioning it first, so I'll let you speak to it because it is an interesting mix of players that they have on this team.
Yeah, I mean, when we often talk about the team that they're going to bring to the Olympics, this is what I guess we're pretty much qualifying to get into the Olympics. Um, Usually, you're looking for the star on the team or a couple of stars. It could obviously be someone added in later. There's talks of Steph Curry possibly, who never played in the Olympics, which is like shocking to know that.
Cunningham too. Hey, Cunningham. Yeah.
They see some of the secondary or what I call the JV teams have some players on it in case people get injured, which I would think. No offense to Josh Hart, or I would think that he would replace Josh Hart if anything, that kind of player. Although the Olympics is different. Usually, you do need these guys like the Harts and those power forward types like the Banchero and all those guys who should be a
Right.
key factor. Also, 3J, Jared Jackson should be a big factor. And when I look at the roster, that's my concern when looking at that. Them being young guys, that's first and foremost. You run into some savvy vets, and one of those guys gets taken out from foul trouble. Team USA is going to be in a lot of trouble because they don't have the bodies. Brunson is, in all his brilliance, is a small dude. Then when you go into a guy like Brandon Ingram, I love Brandon. I love Bi. He's still rail thin, even though he's bigger. The physicality of the game is what I would worry about if I'm Team USA. When looking at it, the physicality. You got guys like Ant-Man. Ant-Man is funny when you look at it. He's a terrific athlete, but he's not tall. Like when he's like literally is like Ant-Man. When you watch him, he's one of those dudes also like Julius that's built. And you're like, wow, you're probably like 6'7", 6'8", but you're so compact. It doesn't go in the leg area.
His athleticism helps him though. He's a good athlete.
Yeah, he's going to need it, and he's going to need his strength with that athleticism. So when I look at the team, international play is different. A lot of these guys get the benefit of a lot of calls in the NBA. The NBA is very soft. I'll just put it where it is. A lot of favorable calls from the referees. I mean, it's almost like it's plotted out like WWE sometimes when you watch some of the jokes that are going on with as far as the foul calls and the flopping. I mean, name it. They do all the theatrics. Refs are calling calls before the players even do it now. It's like literally like projecting fouls. So these guys have gotten kind of used to that. Somebody like Brunson might benefit because he kind of gets it in a dirty way, his game. He loves the contact. He loves, the physicality of the game. So this might be definitely up his alley completely. Maybe a guy like Josh Hart, it's up his alley, but he's not a prolific scorer. Because my thing is this, where are you going to get these baskets when you need a bucket? When the other team is playing defense on you and you're going to rely on a guy like Brunson to carry a lot of the scoring load at some point because Jaren Jackson, as great as he is, he can't get his own shot. That's not his game. BI is the other guy, and he was off. I mean, maybe obviously he's got to get time to maybe get his rhythm or whatever, but he was off, in my opinion, in the game. Like I said, Ant-Man, terrific athlete. I don't know if I want to depend on him to be my scoring threat.
Yeah, he could get a little shot happy. Yeah.
And not a great shot. You don't want you want to shoot him after he's shot happy because you're like that's with a sedative dart or something because you're like, dude, calm that down. So we're getting to Banchero, who I think is the dude that when I look at him is just like he's just physically intimidating. Like when you look at that dude, that dude's a beast. You don't even think
he is.
He's a big boy. That's what I'm just going to say.
Tremendous scorer too. Yeah. So yeah,
they're going to need him. I think if the U.S. team is to win the gold or whatever the medal or win this cup or whatever it is that the reward is at the end, I think he's got to be a big part of it because I just look at him and he's just I joked about not joke. My comparison was Carlos Boozer, and that's not like a slight against him. He's like Carlos Boozer was a physical dude, man. And I'm looking at him, I'm like. He's definitely an elevated version of that, but I'm saying like he can impose his will on a game physically. I just know that he's not a veteran like that now. So will he have the mentality of when to take over or have the poise down the stretch to take over games? I think that's the thing that I'm looking at. Halliburton, I mean, we know Halliburton. Hal's good talent. I don't look at him as being the scorer. He's really a facilitator. I watch him a lot. He's an opportunistic scorer, but he's more of a facilitator. He's definitely looking to get everybody involved. So he works for that dynamic. But Brunson might come out of this being a star because I think he's gonna have to carry a lot of the weight of the team more so. Because I'm thinking down the line, this is like a college team, literally like a college team playing. Although it's the pros,
Right.
it's they're just putting their toe in the water right now in the league. So a guy like Brunson is a veteran right now. So hard
Super
to
young team, yes.
yeah, I'm not seeing. I think they play Slovenia. Luca's team
So,
on Saturday, and then they play Italy Spain on Sunday, I think it is. So you got those two teams. Granted, those teams are maybe not the ilk of the U.S., but you only got to get one. You don't got to get two. You just got to get somebody who's hot enough. And a guy like Luka Doncic is one of those dudes that can give you 65 in a game and give you the full business, and you might be going home with some L's. So I mean, I just look at I'm just looking at the U.S. team, and I'm just trying to find outside of Jalen Brunson, and due to his miniature status, it's because of his height, is what I'm saying this for. You can kind of take him out of the game in a way with enough limbs that it can break down the rest of the team if they don't have the ability to have the maturity to execute and also the skill set to execute. Because I'm not seeing. Let me think about who else is on that team.
Bobby Portis. Walker Kessler. Cam Johnson can shoot, so maybe
Cam Johnson might be the one of the key guys, his ability to shoot, and he's a big physical kid too. Walter Kessler, I mean, I like him. I like him as an NBA player, definitely, but he definitely was a little lost in the sauce the other night when I watched him. He was he was a little bit. I don't want to say he was timid, but he looked. How I see him in the NBA when he's not timid, he was more timid in that game than he was in the NBA game.
FIBA, yeah.
He was different.
FIBA is kind of a different. FIBA is obviously international basketball is very different.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Duncan obviously was a tremendous NBA player, Hall of Famer, multiple champion, MVP, defensive player, but he hated playing in FIBA because of the restrictions that he had. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for big men, FIBA, if you're to play a certain way, FIBA is a very difficult adjustment. But I mean, Austin Reeves is going to have to hit shots. Obviously, Michael Bridges is going to have to hit shots. They need the guys who are known for for outside shooting to really hit those shots so that Brunson can do work in the paint. Mm-hmm. It's basically what we saw with the Knicks against Miami. They're going to need, we're going to need to have that kind of they're going to need to have that kind of a shooting presence in order for this team to advance. I thought when I saw the roster too, when it was finalized, I thought it was very strange. A strange mix of players. I think it can work. I think, like you said, but some of the guys are so young, it's hard to really know what they're going to do on this kind of a stage. You brought up Banchero, obviously second year in the league. Even Edwards has been in the league for a while, but he's still young in a lot of aspects, especially the way he plays the game.
Yeah, mindset.
So I mean, it's gonna be interesting to watch. I like that we have this to have a little bit of basketball during a time where usually we don't. So I like that we have this tournament going on, and I like international events. Period, no matter what sport it is. Absolutely. I always enjoy watching international things. But yeah, I think Team USA obviously should be the favorite. But don't count. I know Canada lost, but don't count them out, man. They have a lot of talent on that team.
Canada's issue is not if Jamal Murray plays. I think he bowed. I don't know if he bowed out. And Wiggins, those two are definitely like shoo-ins to play. I think Wiggins is definitely not playing. I think Murray was. I don't know if it was an injury or what the story was with him. But if those dudes were playing, the U.S. would have a problem. Because Canada got that's an all NBA team. I mean, Corey Joseph's on that team. It's not like he's a joke. It's like he's a solid backup point guard. A backup, maybe a third guard off the bench. But they got legitimate. Anytime you got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and you got Jamal Murray on one team, somebody can get they arse kicked. I'm just gonna say.
I mean, the whole team, most of the team are NBA players. Most of the guys that are there are NBA players. They got freaking Zach Edey, the big dude from Purdue, the 7'4" center. He's on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have
Olenik's on the team. I mean, they got some good balance in that whole team.
Yeah, obviously RJ, I brought him up.
RJ. Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of talent on that team, and guys who aren't stars, but Lou Dort, Alexander Walker, another guy who's an NBA player, good player, crazy ass Dylan Brooks. He's on the team.
Another one, Chainsaw Massacre.
So I mean, they're another team to watch from North America. Like someone said yesterday, I was listening to the radio, and I was listening to Bart and Hahn, and Bart said that they should just have one team from Africa, the whole continent, called Team Africa. So that Alan said, well, then we'll have a team North America where we can play Canada and the United States together on the same team. You know how forget it. That would be over. Like it wouldn't even be funny.
Absolutely. That's funny.
But yeah, he said Team Africa because he wants to see Bobo and Joel Embiid play on the same team together.
Yeah, that would definitely be unique. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they're trying to get Embiid to play, which I don't know how that would even work. They're trying to get him to play for the U.S. team. I mean, unless he's a citizen right now. I don't know if he is, but they're going to need a star. Probably a Steph Curry would be great to add to this team because he's still.
I don't think for this tournament though.
When they go to the Olympics, they're going to definitely need, they're going to need to add to this group. I think the U.S. should win. It's just
right.
I could see them catching a stray elbow and get a black eye, and get knocked down too. I mean, I know who's the more talented team. I mean, given what they are, but I also look at them like you can. I mean, think about it. When the Larry Brown team that was the cream team, I guess it wasn't the dream team.
Yeah, I mean,
look how that lost, and you would never think that team would have lost. You're like, well, look, you got everybody. Why are we taking L's here? And well, I don't know because we don't know if LeBron probably didn't. He didn't lose on that team probably. I don't know. According to everybody else,
I still, yeah,
he was part of it. He might have not been the reason. He might have broke his pinky toe at that point, given the excuses these people give him. So
I still can't believe that. I understood Larry Brown's thinking, but how could you not play LeBron and he played Carmelo and Dwayne Wade. Like you had these guys who are clear Hall of Famers, like superstars. You knew they were going to be, and he didn't play them because they were young. Like that was just retarded. I'm sorry, that was crazy.
It's you making it about you instead of making it about the game. I've always been a person, and we see this a little bit with, well, not even a little bit. It's a lot with Tom. You're stuck in this get off my lawn phase of play the most talented guys. I mean, this league has never not been about talent. If the hardest thing this league has been about is chemistry, but it's always been about talent. The chemistry is hard to get with the talent sometimes. The right players, right personality, one goal in mind is winning. Some people have their own agendas. That's what they always say when teams make trips to the finals, or championships, they win it. They tend to break up afterwards because the egos go bizarre. Everybody's opening restaurants and got endorsements, so they're less concerned about that, or they go to get their bag. So it's hard to keep the continuity of a team together. But talent has always won. It's not like the most talented team has always won, and you got to have great talent that can mesh together. So to not play LeBron, to not play these guys, it's just a disservice. He shouldn't be able to coach basketball, to be very honest. Why would you?
Especially when that was their rookies, like they were in their youngest moment and they were probably at their athletic peak because they hadn't been beaten up by the league yet, right? Like you would think you would want them to play in this tournament on the international stage and just have them run guys up and down the court all game. They would have. I can't. If they played, he played them, they would have won the gold medal. I say that. I'll say that to the day I die. He was. Larry Brown, fantastic basketball coach. I would never say he's not, but he got so stuck in his ways when it came to certain things that it was there was no moving him off it. Even Tom is more flexible than Larry Brown.
Yeah,
that's crazy to say.
Yeah, that is very insane to say when you think about it, because
I know, right?
Yeah, because Larry is. They talked about him. He's legend for going in the front offices and having one bad game and wants the whole team traded. So
yes,
that's it.
I know.
And it's
we have some more. We have a little bit more news about Knick players who are playing for their international teams. Evan Fournier had a very good game in his first exhibition. He scored 13 points, and then he sat out the next day. Apparently, he sprained his ankle a little bit, but he should be fine.
That's not
true. He will be playing. Yeah.
I
already talked to. Huh?
He's washed up, so I don't know how he did that. But
I already told you about RJ Barrett. He had 12 points. He was second in scoring on the team in a loss to Germany. Lee Dort led the team with 14 there. And then news about a former Knick coming back into the league. This news kind of passed under the radar. But yes, Frank Ntilikina is back, folks. Frank is back.
Guess who's back? Back again.
He was signed by the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah. So the guy, he keeps hanging on.
Hey, you know what happened during nuclear wars, they say. Who survives them? So no offense to you.
He keeps hanging on.
But I keep holding on. That's Frank's song. Frank just keeps coming back.
I really hate being right of when it's something like this.
Yeah, you were already spot on about him.
But this pick from the beginning, I was like, this guy's just not it. Like, why are we wasting God?
This comes back to things that was that $1,000 pyramid or $1 million pyramid where they used to go. Things that Knicks fans are always scared about. This is that category. Things that we often fear when looking at this current front office. And although they've done pretty much a solid job, I'm not going to knock them too bad on the job they've done given where we've come from. But you do get worried when it seems like the interest of that everything they're doing is not the interest of basketball. And Frank Ntilikina was one of those things. And also Kevin Knox was one of those things. This was not about basketball. This wasn't about the game. This was about someone got really roped up in their whole ideology about what they wanted. And they selfishly picked guys that didn't have a shot, just really didn't have a shot. And you knew, and then shame on Dolan, allowing him to make a pick on a player that you know you're going.
That's where I was going.
You're firing this dude. You don't let him select. And granted, I always tell people, because I know a lot of people will go Donovan Mitchell. They all go Donovan Mitchell. You said Donovan Mitchell, you, Eric, personally. But nobody was thinking about Donovan Mitchell. It really was about Malik Monk at the time and Dennis Smith Jr. That was the cluster of players that they're like, we can get one of those, because they really fell in line after Ntilikina's pick. So when seeing that, I mean, Mitchell would have made more sense, you would think, for Phil, but Phil always liked tall guards. So I understand.
The only reason I think Mitchell was the pick, if they didn't go Frank, was because they had him in for a workout the day before, like a secret workout, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't usually do that unless you're planning on doing something. And the local connection, I think, would have been a huge boon for the team, taking a local kid, right? So. But no, you're right. Any of those, both those other guys were being discussed too. It's not a slam dunk they would have taken Donovan Mitchell, but I think that's where they would have gone. All signs kind of pointed at that point to.
You know what's so weird with Donovan Mitchell? And I never watched him even play. This was so weird about it. It was Rick Pitino. who I've watched, and I'm a big fan of Rick Pitino. The thing was is that he was campaigning so heavy for the kid. He was like, oh, there's like, Rick is in everyone's ear. This was the rumor. He's talking about, oh, you need to draft this kid, you need to draft this kid. He was going around campaigning for him. And I'm like, well, if Rick Pitino felt that he needed to go speak on this kid's behalf, this kid he has to be a baller. It's like, so I was like, well, you could have took Frank Ntilikina, but why didn't you go try to get? I mean, it's doesn't happen in the NBA at all. We see where you buy another first rounder, but I'm like, see if somebody else wants to get, give you the pick. Go get. That would have been your backcourt. That wouldn't have been bad for the Knicks. I mean, Frank would have been whatever, but you would have had those two. They actually are best friends or were best friends at one point. So that could have actually worked. But I'm like, when I heard them talking about him, I'm like, well, he's got to be good if Rick Pitino's talking about him. The Knicks should draft him. But you just don't let they know Phil was being lazy on the job. There's problems there was talks that his health was bad. It's just so we're going back to the same things. Why I fear a little bit what we're seeing with Obi, and we might see with Quickly, hopefully not. But when are the Knicks going to get out of their own way and be about basketball and not about the other stuff? Knick fans do not take this winning streak or this winning culture, so to say. You should still take it with a grain of salt because these guys are lining up people they know and they're winning. But is your goal just to win some of these games and get into the second round, possibly? Or you might get bounced out the first round this year, which is also possible. Where's the extra winning? Does Dante DiVincenzo put you into the Eastern Conference Finals? That's a question you need to ask yourself. So will Josh Hart put you into the Eastern Conference Finals? Those moves are what you're asking whether or not these things are going to work long term. Because right now you're not getting it long term. What you're getting is guys that can contribute and actually give you something, a gritty, gritty performance here and there, and they can help your culture. But if you want to win a championship, this is not the full route. You got to at least get somebody in here that's Brunson's ilk and make a tough decision on Julius and RJ, because that's where your next step has to be who you keep there and who you trade off for assets, because that's where you are really to get Brunson the kind of help he's going to need. It's going to cost you either RJ or Julius. That's the only way you're going to get any serious help for that guy.
I'm trying to see. Let's see. Julius has. So he has two essentially. He has this coming season and then next season and then the player option, which if he keeps, I don't care about the playoffs. If he keeps going this route in the regular season, he's opting out of that deal. So you can bank on that. Yeah, so like next year is a tradable year for him, depending on what they do. What they, so if the Knicks somehow fell a little this year and he kind of fell off a little bit this year, you might be able to move him or include him in the package. I just have a feeling, and I know this is probably wishful thinking on my part because I like his mentality. I have a feeling that last year was a learning year for RJ, and I think this year he's going to be what I thought he would be last year. I think he's going to take that leap that I thought he'd take last year. I think he had to adjust a little. I think it was rough. Like I said, get Brunson coming in, dominating the ball a little more. His touches went down. Having to go from second option now to third option and learning how to play with it. That's tough for a young player. So I think that he was adjusting. So I think we're going to see him be more of the player he looked like the second half of last season.
Yeah,
where he was much more dominant. It seemed like he found his shot again in the playoffs too. His shot last game notwithstanding, he was terrible, but before that, his shot was falling. Yeah, that's true. They all were. That's true.
He was an outlier in that situation.
And I just think that, and I shouldn't say I think. I hope that the front office sees that as good as Randall is, he's like we've talked many times. He obviously has a mental block, when it comes to certain things, and it's hard to build around a player like that, make him a key player. So we'll see. I agree with you though. Like they have to find someone of similar talent at least to Brunson to put next to him, and similar talent and mentality, not just talent, because you can argue that Randall's more talented. I can argue definitely that Randall's more talented than Brunson. Not obviously with the things Brunson does with overall.
Yeah. I hear you.
Right.
I
think
that's the thing. People get it mixed up when you talk about Randall. They think you're talking about his talent level, and for everything, it's always been his mental talent level. That's got to do with his game is fantastic. I mean, he does everything you want your athlete in New York to do. He stays in great shape and he comes to work, hard hat, and he puts up great numbers. It's not even that. It's about how greedy do you want to be as a Knick fan? Do you want to have an all-star? You want to have a championship? I'm a greedy Knick fan. I want a chip.
And we shouldn't be asking the question this far into his Knicks career if he can be that second guy or that guy.
Because you know what? If you got to ask, then there's not. That's it. Right. You just know. Brunson came here in this one season, and Knick fans have said, "Oh, you might be him. You might be him." We believe in that. The other guys that have question marks are guys that should have question marks because of their youth. RJ is still relatively a young kid. We really never knew what he was as a third pick. We put him in different places as a third pick, either the second option, now the third option. What is he? We have question marks. Obi, question marks. We never know what these guys are. Randall was in the league, has been in the league for a long time. We know what he is. It's not. Yeah, so we know what he is. If we're asking a player of this ilk, and he's brought it up, which makes me wonder, like, well, damn, if you're bringing it up, it really is a problem. He's saying, well, the maturity and the talent level at this time in my career should be leveling. Well, dude, if you're telling us that,
right,
then that is telling you, for somebody who was with Kobe, it makes no sense that this guy in the playoffs shrinks. I just don't, because you hung around Kobe. Kobe was the dude that was so fearless and had a mind to go kill. That was his whole thing. Was he efficient? No, he wasn't an efficient player. No, people want to make him efficient. He wasn't. But the way he attacked the game fearlessly. Randall has fear. He has he
clearly does. Yes.
He has fear about moments, and Kobe didn't have it. That's what's so weird that was his. He was Kobe. He was Kobe's rook, and it's very weird. And he worked out with him. He trained. All these things that he learned from him, but he never. The mindset was one of the things. He goes haywire. He has no poise. So I just think that he's a done deal. I don't got nothing personal against the guy.
Well,
he's a done
deal.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm obviously, I'm there with you, but as long as he's here, I want the best for him because I want the team to win. So as long as he's here, I'm hoping all this stuff he says is true.
Oh, I agree. Yes. I agree. Right? I want him to be. It's so funny. Even after the thumbs down thing, I'm still like, the next season, I'm like, dude, if you ball out, I don't care what thumb you use. To be very honest, I just want somebody who's a dog in that uniform, win or lose, that you're just a dog. We saw Jalen Brunson. He made a mental hiccup in Miami. Yeah. It was a mental hiccup. He played a perfect game until it became imperfect, and it happens. It happens. It's like, do I think he's going to come back and ever try to make that same? No, I think he's a player that's going to learn and build off his mistakes. There's no proof that Julius has learned and built off his mistakes in these hot moments. So we're going to give him the ankle. We're going to give him the ankle. That's what we heard it was. The ankle. We got to give you a solid and say, come back next time physically 100%, so we know who you are as a man on the floor.
Yeah, right. That's hopefully. Yeah, we need to see him, since he's going to be here clearly. So we need to see him in the playoffs, healthy. And then okay, now you have no more excuses.
No.
Play. Let's see you play and see you be this tandem with Brunson. See, this is the thing. I so wish that they ran pick and roll with him and in Brunson. I just would love to see them run it because Julius can hit a little 15-foot, on the pop, or he can dive down. He's a big dude. He takes contact. Like it would seem so easy for me that player should be put into this team. But again, I don't know why it's not. I don't understand.
I would love. You bring up that PNR. I think that would be ridiculous because seeing how we've seen moments where Julius yams it down the lane, like he goes all full locomotive down the middle of the lane, and guys get out the way because they don't want none of that smoke. Can you just imagine? He has the ability to do all the things that we're talking about in the pick and roll situation, and we don't see it.
Yeah. And we know that they're not going to sag off Brunson because he's a killer in the paint. Like he finishes these weird teardroppy shots that he takes, but they go in.
They go in.
They go in. So hey, they're not going to sag off him. So you're telling me that if you get the little slip pass in there, Brando's probably either going to finish it or he's going to get fouled and be at the line. Like that's the way I look at it. Those are the two options.
People should look at it almost like I'm not saying that either one of these guys are these two guys, but look how successful Stockton and Malone were playing a mid-range game because there wasn't no three-point shot like that. Look at all the points Malone has. Look at all the assists that Stockton has. I mean, they own the record books, outside of the longevity that guys are passing inflated numbers now. Obviously, somebody can pass you. But I'm just saying, these guys did it without the three-point shot or Stockton not being as athletic, if you want to say that. So watch that dynamic and imagine if Brunson, because you're already playing a half-court slow-down game anyways. So imagine that was part of the intricacy of how they played the offense or ran the offense. These dudes would be killing teams. The PNR is hard to actually defend for a lot of players because they can't mentally do it. So imagine he's diving Julius is diving.
Yeah.
And he's not making a decision. He's just moving. He's set up and he makes a move. Come on. It's just the most.
They used that in New Orleans. His last season there. They used it in New Orleans. Like I saw them use it in New Orleans with him. So I don't know. I don't know why they're allergic to you doing a play that everyone in the NBA does. Man. Literally every team in the NBA runs a version of the pick and roll, and the Knicks don't.
The Knicks don't. And this has been an existing thing through other regimes. It's not like we're just talking about down right.
Well, since D'Antoni, right? D'Antoni used it all the time, but he was the last coach we had that I recall used it on every possession, a version of it on every possession. And there's other things you can do off of it. Like there's other things you can do off of the pick and roll. Yes, it's a two-man game and it's set up for the pick, the point guard or the guard and the forward to exchange. But if it's closed off, you can find a shooter. Like there's other ways around this.
It's like and in an offense like with the kind of talent that the Knicks have, you could put Grimes and DiVincenzo out on the edges and light somebody up. I mean, you can light up a team. And it's like these dudes now, it's like, go out, put two guys that are not the greatest ISO players. Brunson is a great ISO player. I'm talking about Julius and RJ are not the greatest ISO players. Why would you ISO them? Why would your main thing would be give them the rock and let them operate on the wing? And both don't have the kind of dribble packages to do two dribbles and get where they want to go. They're choppy steppers. They're not quick-footed. And it's okay. It's not like knocking them. It's like the offense you're asking them to do does not benefit them as physically and their talents, their skill set. It does not match what they are as players. You're wanting them to be Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And they're more like Leonard Skinner than anything. They're not Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I mean, come on. Let's just keep it a buck. And I love RJ, but it's like, that is not your game. Why are we? He's better off fast-paced slashing. That's what he's better off doing, fast-paced slashing. It just shocks me that the coach in all that tape don't see that. I mean,
I know.
Things I've ever seen in sports. You watch all that tape and you can't see that.
I know. I know. It's just I don't know. Me and my, I've both played the game and I know the game.
Well, you sure?
So yes, I'm 100% sure on both, and so. And again, I'm not obviously not to the level that even that an NBA coach knows. No, I would never make that claim. But you see things on the court when you're watching, and it seems very logical to me. Like, why are they not doing this? This would work in this situation. And it's not, they don't even look to do it. Like, that's the thing. It's not even something that comes to mind. And to me, it would be normal, my normal thought process. If I was a guard and I had this and I was on the court, I would say, all right, when I saw a certain defense, I'd be like, we're going pick and roll. Like, if we got that situation, we're going pick and roll. Like, we're going there right away. And that's just, I don't see that. And I don't know if they don't have the freedom to do it. I would hope that Brunson has the freedom to do it, but who knows? I don't know. So yeah, so that's the thing. I just get angry when I don't see the talent being utilized, in my opinion, to the best of its ability. And NBA coaches should know that. That's how I look at it. I shouldn't be the one sitting here telling them. They should know that.
That's the whole thing. Being a couch coach, if you want to say it, and seeing things in the game and going, I would never. It's like you wouldn't run that in 2K. In 2K, you would call for a pick because guys that don't need picks are like on such an elite level. You're talking like Michael Jordan didn't need a pick. You're talking like Allen Iverson didn't need a pick. You're talking like a guy like Steph Curry doesn't need a pick, but he even utilizes a pick. He comes off of screens. It's like these guys got either great first steps or a great guy like Kyrie. You got to be there's a percentage of guys that don't need a pick, and it's such a small percentage. Everybody else needs a damn pick in the NBA. Everybody needs somebody to come up and run a screen to get me open or to open up something. This individual, I'm going to go full ISO. A guy like Carmelo Anthony didn't need a pick. He could just shoot over 3 guys. But it's an elite scoring level player, and the NBA has not had a bunch of those that I've saw over the last 30 years. I've been watching this, or 40 years, whatever long it's been. It's been too damn long. But the longer I've been watching it, I've never seen guys just go, oh, no. I'll call my own number. I got it. Woo! What?
Well, again, this is a topic I could talk about for hours.
Yes,
structure and roster and how to play. And maybe that makes me pathetic, but it's something that I like to do in all sports. Not just, yeah, I mean, these topics, sometimes I tell people what I'm talking about. They're like, what? Like, why do you care? I'm like, shut up, leave me alone.
Leave me alone. This ain't about you. Leave me alone. I got this.
All right, but we're going to put a bow on this one, guys. So, Ty, really quickly, tell them where they can find you and what you got going on and all that stuff.
Well, I wish you could find me at Josh Hart's contract signing. I got bro, hook a brother up. That's all I can tell you. But other than that, as I wait for that check to come in the mail or via PayPal, whichever way you want to hook a brother up. That's what I'm trying to say. But you can find me at our fan page, All Knicked Up, on Facebook. You can also find me on Twitter. I do a little tweeting every once in a while. That's at Genius Scribble. Holla at your boy.
Yeah, you guys can see my information here. Oh, sorry. I always screw this up. Finally, 33 is my handle. At all_Nick_up is the show handle. That's where I talk basketball. That's where I have a lot of the basketball conversations with other content creators. Still trying to see if I can hammer someone down to come on the show or maybe collaborate with us, see if we can put something together. I'm working on that all the time. Hopefully we get that done soon. Again, at Finally 33, that's where you can find me. That's where I talk about a lot of different things, mostly sports related outside of basketball, but I do talk some basketball with that account as well. But mostly Jets right now, and football's coming and all the other sports. And then of course I have another show that I do called Straight Outta Gotham. It's at @street_O_G. That is my fandom pop culture podcast that I do with my co-host Peter Vera. and we talk about movies and TV shows and comic books and video games and all that other nerdy stuff that I'm into. So I have my jock stuff that I talk about. I have my nerdy stuff that I talk about. A little well-rounded there, but it's a fun time. I love interacting with people. So if you ever on and you want to give me a shout, go ahead, please, and find me there. We will be back next week probably, unless something something happens. You never know. But we're supposed to be back. Of course, we record every Wednesday, usually 8:30. Tonight was 9, but usually at 8:30 Eastern time. We are here. We discuss the latest going on, of course, with your New York Knicks and other happenings around the NBA. So for Ty, I'm Eric. You're watching All Nicked Up, and we'll see you next time.